People ask me, how the hell do you make that money back so fast? I just went to people and said, can you help me? What do you need?
David Meltzer is a legendary sports executive, entrepreneur, and investor. David co-founded Sports One Marketing and formerly served as CEO of the renowned Leigh Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. David has been recognized by Variety magazine as their Sports Humanitarian of the Year and awarded the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. He is also the executive producer of the Apple TV series 2-Minute Drill and Office Hours. David and Bryan talk about his wild journey of earning $100 million, losing it all, and then getting it back.
So before we get into your story, which there's definitely a lot to unpack, what was Dave Meltzer's childhood like?
Really happy, except for very poor. I had a single mom, 6 kids. My dad had left when I was 5. And so the only time I wasn't happy was when there was financial disruption or stress over anything. Cars breaking down, not enough food, 5 boys, 1 girl. There's a lot of expenses and very little when your mom's a 2nd grade teacher who packs your dinner in a paper bag, drives you around Akron, Ohio, filling up turnstiles of greeting cards just so we could eat. So I always tell people, was blessed to have the mom that I had, the siblings I had. They're extraordinary people. But it was financially extremely stressful, and which led me to having a perspective that, I wanted to be rich because I felt that if I could be rich, I would fulfill the only void in my life, financial security, and be completely happy.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of that, so this part of the story after this is that right after you graduated law school, you became a millionaire in, 9 months? And a multimillionaire
9
by
months.
the time you were 32. So obviously that's kind of crazy. And looking back at that time, what was going through your mind, especially after that, what you were just talking about with your childhood? I mean, that's a lot to process, especially at a young age.
Yeah, it really was. And I think what was going through my mind was that money does buy love and happiness, that my identity was tied to how much money I made. And the higher my bank account went, the happier I was, and the more I took identity in the amount of money that I made. And like anything else, everything comes around with the lessons or the messages that we need to learn in order to grow and expand. And my entire life would shift and the paradigm would shift, all revolving around my identity and my relationship with money.
Yeah, definitely. And so besides that, obviously there's obvious positives of that happening, of you making all that money at a young age. But in hindsight now, were there any negatives that came out of it that you can think of?
Yeah, the negative of thinking that I could do it myself, the negative of thinking that I was better than I was, the negative of a more narcissistic approach, even to giving, the negative of buying things you don't need to impress people you don't like. Also the negative of how people treated me. I lost a lot of really good friends because they felt uncomfortable with my wealth. They felt like I was judging them. They would come and would be embarrassed to come to my house or invite me to their house because of the financial differences, especially when you're a multimillionaire in your 20s and early 30s. You can afford to do everything. It created great differences with my closest friends. And so I started to search for people that I felt were in the same frequency or vibration as me. And I surrounded myself with older people that had different issues and surrounded myself with people with the wrong ideas. There's a lot of negative that goes into being successful and having your identity be tied to your financial success.
Yeah, and also too, I'm just thinking like not only with the obvious financial stuff that changes, but you as a person also changes when all of that money comes so fast. And so all those people you were talking about, it's not only the money too, it was that you were probably a different person. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, just the subject matter, right? I love talking about, I do a lot of research today. I'm more interested than interesting. And I really, the key topic was always something about money. I was bragging a lot. I was overselling and manipulating a lot. I, just felt as if I had to impress people. And if you didn't know I was rich, I wanted to make sure you knew I was rich. And it was a terrible position. I think even within the context of my relationship with my mom, I wanted, to take care of my mom, which created an interesting relationship there, enabling my mom because I paid for her house, her car, anything broke down. I, entitled my own mom, and that relationship suffered as I got older as well because she, set a standard of reliance on, the allowance and the giving that I was giving to her. And our relationship became more about money than it was about unconditional love in my mind.
Yes, and as we'll talk about later on, that changes as you get older and as life goes on. So, based on your experience of getting rich quickly, do you think that young people should strive for that, or should we try to be a little more patient?
Well, I think creating abundance and wealth is terrific, and you should try to do it as fast as you can. The difference is, in the lesson that I teach, is to ask for help, right? I thought I did it all myself. I put it upon myself. I was blessed to have financial success early on and continue to have financial success, which rendered me, someone who didn't ask for help. And I think that to strive to make as much money as you can, as fast as you can, is terrific, as long as you have mentorship around the way, people who have sat in the position or situation that you want to be in and can help pay the dummy tax for you. And I think that's why so many, especially successful younger people, reach out to me for mentorship, because I can give them the directions on how to get to where they want to be without making the same mistakes that I've made.
Yeah, and also too, the thing about getting rich quick is that sometimes it could happen when you're not ready for it. And that could cause some not good things to happen. And this relates to the next part of the story, was just like you got rich quick, you lost it all very fast. So just like we were talking about earlier, what was going through your mind when that happened? How are you processing that?
I think there's a lot of things going on. First, I think it's important to know that I was running the most notable sports agency in the world. So not only was I a multimillionaire at a young age, but I had access to things that even billionaires couldn't afford. I was representing and surrounding myself at the Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, Masters, Kentucky Derby, the Breeders' Cup, all the award shows I could go to backstage, the ESPYs, Emmys, Oscars, Grammys. And so my ego or my interference was at such a high that it created all types of problems in my life because I was lost and I was unhappy. And I, like a lot of people, tried to numb that unhappiness by surrounding myself, buying things, the wrong people, partying way too much. And, eventually good behaviors aggregate to great results. Bad behavior aggregates to horrible results. And you talked about patience. I was very impatient because I had always had instant gratification from the time I graduated law school. I could attach my emotions to an outcome, and as the outcomes kept on coming, I could get excited and happy. And so I had no patience. I didn't understand the compounding interest of behavior, especially negative behavior, that sooner or later things keep doubling. And I always say it takes 90% of the effort and time to get to 25% of the way there. And it only takes 5% more to get to 50% and 5% more of the time to get to 100. So, it hits you like a ton of bricks. You don't realize the aggregate effect of your bad behavior until it's too late.
It's just like how positive things compound and build over time. Same thing happens with the negative. It sneaks up on you.
So except for most people quit before on positive things because it doesn't happen that fast. People quit before it happens. And with negative things, they don't think it's going to happen, so they never quit.
Exactly. And especially, too, is because it's always the little stuff, too, because especially with the little stuff, you never see the results right away. So you don't see it, but you will see in a couple of years or 10 years when it all adds up. So just like I said before, there's obvious negatives to losing all your money, right? But what were some positives that came out of that experience in hindsight?
Well, I always say we give meaning to the inflection points and defining moments in a trajectory of where we think we want to be. And, the relationship that I have with that defining moment of losing everything, over $100 million, has changed over the last 16 years. It's gone from the worst day or worst event in my life, or one of the worst events, to something that saved my life, something that transformed me into a better place, a better position, something that led me to live in a faithful perspective of being protected and promoted. It's the most significant defining moment when it comes to my own values and my daily practices. So that defining moment had great positive impact. It took time to realize it, and it takes even more time to give it that meaning. But now that I'm far surpassed the pain, there's many wonderful things like having a great relationship with my wife, like being extremely healthy, like good habits, being able to have a better relationship with giving and receiving. Where I stand today would not have happened but for me going through that experience of losing everything.
Yeah, and so I've heard you talk about the role of the movie Rocky and your comeback. And by the way, just to give the listener some context, you bounced back pretty strong, and you made $1 million back within 2 weeks. So what's the role of the movie Rocky in all of that?
Well, the day that I had to file bankruptcy, I realized that although the only reason I wanted to be rich was to buy my mom a house, I had lost my mom's house in my bankruptcy. I didn't take my name off of the title. I had to not only tell my mom that I had lost everything, but that I had lost her house and she had to move. So I really didn't want to get out of bed. It was probably the only day of my life, because I'm an optimist. I'm a toptimist. I'm the top of all optimists. I've never had that experience where I didn't want to get out of bed. And I was sitting in bed thinking, I have no purpose. I completely screwed up. And as I was thinking about, if I ever was going to get out of bed and forgive myself and move forward with, what I knew, as my wife told me to take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become, I turned the TV on and there was, the ending scenes of Rocky, and Rocky was getting pummeled by Apollo Creed, and he just, people were screaming, stay down, and he would look up and he'd get up and he just kept fighting. And I said to myself, because it's one of my favorite movies, gosh, if I can look up, I can get up. If I can look up, I can get up. I don't care if the punches keep on coming. And sure enough, I got up and I walked down to my mom's house, which was down the street from mine, and broke down in tears and told her I had lost everything, including her home, and she would have to move. And unlike what I thought would happen, her dropping to her knees, crying and screaming at me and in disappointment and shame, instead I had an amazing unconditional love moment, a lesson from my mom when she didn't even flinch when I told her. In fact, I didn't think she heard me when I explained to her she had lost her home and she would have to move. I had lost her home and she'd have to move. She just looked at me and said, "Are you okay? Do you need any money? Is there anything I can do for you?" And after about 3 times of saying to my mom, "Did you hear me? You got to move. I blew it," in tears, she said, "No, I heard you. I'm just here for you." And that unconditional love was an inspiration for me to live my life in a different trajectory. My wife and my mom for years have been telling me I was lost, that money didn't buy love or happiness. And now, through this experience, I was going to live my life in that trajectory and make money and use it to shop for the right things, not for the wrong things.
Yeah, I think that really shows in your content now, how it's more about giving and being of service than money or anything like that. So that really shows the growth, and that also shows how do you ever wonder like what would have happened if I never lost all that money? Like who would I be today? You ever think about that?
Oh yeah, I probably would be dead, for sure, divorced. Either way, I would be in a worse position than I ever could have thought. And I also asked myself, even if I didn't, which life would I want to leave? The one before I went bankrupt, or the one I went and lived today after bankruptcy? And it's not even in the same ballpark. The life I live today is my dream life. Even though you would have thought coming from nothing and my dream to be rich was satisfied at such an early age, I never felt the passion that I feel today, the purpose that I feel today, or even have had the profitability that I have today. And it's amazing because, I wished for the first life and never dreamed of my second life, but my second life is my dream.
Yeah, and that relates to something that I believe in, is that sometimes you really just don't know what you want. And you might have hoped something that went a certain way, but at the end of the day, maybe it would have ended up a lot worse, and you just don't know. So there are many factors and life philosophies that I believe allowed you to bounce back, and I just want to go over them one by one. I got 4 here. There's one that you say, don't try to be interesting, try to be interested.
Yeah, that was probably one of the greatest lessons my oldest brother taught me when I was 18, to be more interested than interesting. And analyzing that philosophy, I'm looking for the light, the love, and the lessons in everything. I'm looking to do my best, learn lessons, and have fun. I'm not looking to oversell, back-end sell, lie, manipulate, or cheat, which goes along with most people who want to be interesting. They have to provide color or commentary to what should be an interested life, of how I could be of service or value, what open-ended questions I can ask to understand what you're doing today, what you like about it, what don't you like about it, and even being more interested in who you know that can help me. All are under the context of paying attention and giving intention, doing, saying, thinking, believing, and feeling in a trajectory of what I think I want in the future, not what I don't know or what I think I don't know.
This next one is probably my favorite one, and I posted this on our page, and it did really well, so I think a lot of people agreed with you. You said, just because someone loves you and just because someone cares about you does not mean they give good advice.
Yeah, we call those people relatives, family, and friends, don't we? They care so much about us, but they don't know what they don't know. And so, I had this decision to make when I graduated law school, to be a litigator, to make $150,000 a year plus bonus, or to take a chance in 1992 and work within the internet. And my mom, actually, who cares about me, as you know, more than anyone, my mom told me the internet was a fad, that I'd make the biggest mistake of my life if I went into the internet. I should be a real lawyer. And that's when I came up with that idea. Gosh, nobody cares about me more than my mom, my family, my friends, but they keep on giving me bad advice. And I'll tell you why. Because there's only 2 types of people in the world. There's ignorant people, people that don't know what they don't know. And then there's ignorant people, people that don't know what they don't know. What I mean by that is there's 2 different types of ignorant people. There's the arrogant, ignorant people that pretend like they know what they don't know. And then there's the humble ones that admit they don't know what they don't know. And so our parents, friends, and family are actually the most arrogant, ignorant people in our lives, because they don't know what they don't know, but because they're so afraid for you, not for themselves, because they care so much and love so much about you, they're going to give you advice that is aligned with your security and safety, not the good advice of what's in your best interest or what they don't know. So I tell all people all the time that just because somebody cares about you, love you, family, friends, etc., doesn't mean they know anything about what you're looking at. Go find somebody that sits in a situation that you want to be in, an expert in what you're looking for, sleep, nutrition, real estate, stocks, whatever it is, and ask them for advice, not your mom or dad or friends.
And I think it's really hard to kind of distinguish if it's good or bad advice, especially when it's coming from someone that cares about you a lot. It's a really hard thing to do, and I think the way to go is just to try it out for yourself, right? And like you said, like, find people that are in that field or doing something very similar to you that has been through it before that can help you out. So this next one is, be a student of your calendar.
This one changed my life, business life especially, more than any other thing. First, let me define what a student is. A student is someone that pays attention to and gives intention to. It's not someone that looks at your calendar. It's someone that studies it with attention and intention. They're looking to see, okay, am I doing everything in a trajectory of what I want, who I can help, and how best to get it done? Am I saying it? Am I thinking it? Am I believing it? Am I feeling it? And they're looking at the calendar, the 24 hours that you are given today, in the context of productivity, of how much production you can have, accessibility, which is a duality, how accessible am I to others, and how am I accessing or receiving what I want. And then, of course, most people don't use the lens of gratitude. Of course, we can find the light, the love, and the lessons in all our activity, but how do I prioritize that or know my now using gratitude? Making sure that we're spending our time with the activity that we get paid for, activity that we get fed for, not feeding things that don't feed us. Most people spend about 80% of their time on things, people, and ideas that bleed them. If they start utilizing these lenses to figure out what's feeding them, they can exponentially create more productivity, accessibility, more happiness, more money, and more fun in their lives. So studying our time, activity you have planned, you don't have planned, and especially your sleep, can create incredible efficiency, effectiveness, and statistical success each day. And remember, think small each day and think big in the future. The future should scare you and everyone else around you, but your schedule today should be small enough that nobody is surprised or afraid that you can't complete what you have on your table today. So think small today to get to those big thoughts in the future. That's what the difference of being and utilizing your calendar, your time in the most efficient, effective, and statistically successful way.
Yeah, and also too, if you're not studying your calendar, you don't really know exactly where you're spending your time. So like you said, when you're always focused on the big picture stuff, that can be very overwhelming on a day-to-day basis. And so definitely try to break it down to these little things that you can do that will eventually lead up to that bigger thing. That's a lot easier way to look at it. Last one is having a minimum amount of time of doing certain things. I've heard you say that you spend, I think, 30 minutes. I don't want to say stuff that isn't true, but like 30 minutes talking to your wife, or like 5 minutes with your mom.
Yeah. So I have non-negotiables, and I start there every day. And, you know, it's amazing how much time you have in a day when you do this. But so I spend a minimum of an hour a day on my health. If you're healthy, you get as many wishes as you want a day. If you're unhealthy, you only have one wish. So I dedicate an hour minimum a day to my health. Then I spend 30 minutes with my wife, minimum, 30 minutes with my 12-year-old son, minimum, 2 minutes minimum with my 3 daughters who are 23, 21, and 18, and then a minimum of 1 minute a day with my mom, knowing that a minute a day is more than an hour on a Saturday. But the purpose of my phone calls or visitations with my mom is to make sure she knows 4 things: that I'm happy, I'm healthy, that I appreciate her and love her. If you can make sure you communicated with the closest people around you about your happiness and health, about your appreciation and love for them, it will heal all the insecurities and resistance that are utilized and created between the people that we're most relative to, especially our parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, etc. So I use that, and then I use a minimum of 10 minutes a day to study my calendar. If you add up that time, it equals, 2 hours and 7 minutes. So that leaves an additional, 21 hours and 53 minutes to do everything else in my day. So it's not as if your non-negotiables should take up your entire day, but in fact, you should do them every day. Health, family, finance, you're going to hit it all. Make sure you do it every single day. Give it a minimum amount of time.
Yeah, and I like that a lot, because when you like commit yourself to doing something every day, it's not like an option. It's more of like time, like let's do it. Like you're a lot more likely to actually do it if you commit to doing it every day. Like, for example, if you have a certain time that you call your mom every day, when the clock strikes that time, you're going to do it instead of being like, oh, I should do it. So right now, after all the success, after everything, what keeps you motivated to keep on working hard?
Well, I have a philosophy and a definition of success, which is my mission to enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of my potential. All the content that I have, I give for free, from my books to my speeches to my podcast to all the different, interviews that I give and shows that I have, TV shows on Apple TV. They're to empower other people to be what they must be. I'm blessed to be around billionaires, millionaires, and entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers. And the common denominator between successful, happy, passionate, purposeful, and profitable people is they have a desire that they must be what they can be. In other words, they enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of their own potential. Not what other people want for them, not what's missing, not what they don't have, but what they want for themselves. And I encourage everyone to enjoy that pursuit. Remember, Will Smith and Chris Gardner in the movie Pursuit of Happiness, they had it wrong. I told them so. It's not the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is the pursuit.
Exactly. So my last question for you is, what would you tell your younger self if younger Dave Meltzer was here right now? What would you tell him?
For me, it's really simple. It's the same thing I tell myself, older David Meltzer, who's 54 years old, but I would tell younger David Meltzer, whether he's 14, 24, 34, 44, or 54, ask for help. Live in radical humility. Give somebody the pleasure of helping you. Become an investment of others. Connect yourself to and through not only others, but the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves you more than your mom loves you. So the best piece of advice that I can give people is ask for help. Most people have no problem helping others, but they have a huge resistance to asking for help. I learned to ask for help. Nothing got me to recovery and faster economically, spiritually, emotionally than asking other people for help and living in radical humility in that way.